Okay, cool.
So as we go through today, of course, let me know what questions you have. And so we're going to quickly walk through what are you seeing on this dashboard, how can you use it. What I find the most helpful oftentimes is the job pricing status. I know that you all had our team benchmark with best practices, your titles. There were just 7 titles that the titles we didn't have an exact practice match. So we're gonna walk through pricing one of these together today. But you can really use this with that flow of, you know, how many jobs do we have that are maybe in that needs review stage versus in progress versus not priced. So I find this to be a super helpful widget on that dashboard to know where are you at with that pricing project. Down below, you're going to notice this analytics bar giving you different analytics depending on what page you're on in the account. So sometimes this is helpful for tracking things like, hey, I've got jobs that are moving in the market, or kind of getting a high-level view about tenure. So some of these are helpful data points. And then down below, of course, just really easy access points to other parts of the tool. I always like to highlight this job plus sign here for that scenario of, hey, I need to come in here and price a brand new job. I need an ad hoc report for a position. You can absolutely do that from the dashboard. You can use this plus sign here to do that. So that's a nice quick step. And then we're going to end in reports today. All of these are hyperlinks, so you can really easily move throughout the tool. So those are the major callouts on the dashboard. In terms of how to find information, of course, you're going to use these drop downs. We're going to work through the Your Workforce area today, really talking about jobs and making sure you're comfortable with that, as well as getting into the market data section to review your surveys and your competitive set. So you can use these drop downs to get around. But more importantly, if you aren't sure where to find something, you can always click on that magnifying glass. It is a site-wide search, so you can really search for anything in your account. You know, it could be a job, it could be an employee, and you can search for anything that you want using that magnifying glass.
Got it.
So there are other widgets here. Once you do create a structure, this will come into play there. But you know, since you all have logged in, does it feel intuitive moving around in this tool, or was there something that you were trying to find that you couldn't find?
No, I think that was good. The truth is, I haven't logged in and cruised around yet, but I'm going to afterwards. So this will be a good orientation.
Great. All right. So then we're going to go ahead and move into the market data. First place I want to show you is what surveys are loaded into your tool and what competitive sets are a part of the tool also. So I'm going to start with the surveys so we can come in here. The surveys, of course, are what you all have loaded in. It looks like you all are using that pay scale company source data set. I know this one just came out recently, so that's exciting that we have another data offering. So is this the first time that you all will have utilized multiple data sources for your jobs? Yes,
or any data sources.
Okay, so I want to, of course, frame what this is. Of course, Insight Lab is a survey management tool. So when you be coming into the survey section, it's really about what data are we using for this particular survey. So coming into this just very first one, the beta of the company source data, you can see the list of participating companies, who is making up this data set, coming right next door to data cuts. This is essentially where you're honing in closer and closer on what data within this survey are we really going to be utilizing for our jobs. So I'm just going to scroll down here because this is a cut that has a few different data points. So when it comes to which options do we want to use, you have some things to choose from. So in terms of, do you want to look at city metro data? Do you want to look, it looks like, I think this cut in particular is just really scoping different city metro areas. You know, some survey providers scope by region, some survey providers scope by industry. But in this case, would you want to, and I think I noticed up at the top that you all are you all in San Diego? Is that where you're pricing your job?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this would really be coming in here for that type of just general housekeeping to select the cut that you would want. You can use the favorites feature to move them up to the top. And that's just your way of telling the tool, hey, when it comes to matching, I really want you to try to find survey matches from this San Diego Carlsbad survey. Coming right next door, the survey jobs tab is showing you what titles are available within that cut. Of course, this isn't market pricing, but just again, some kind of general housekeeping. If you're curious about like what kind of architect titles are within this, what titles are available. So you can do that kind of general search in the survey library section. So any questions about this and what this part of the tool is trying to do?
So so you did do the job survey and then click on software architect. I just wanted to see what that would actually show.
Within the survey job?
Yeah.
So this is it, and it's really just showing you the code.
Oh, I got it. Okay, these are the top. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So just like what jobs can I even benchmark to within this survey is what you'd be coming in here to do.
Got it.
Where would we have the pricing data for that particular role, like in that metro location?
We're going to get there. I want to show you first where you can set this part up.
All that's about like where did the data come from, or what is the profile of the data? Yep.
And I wasn't sure. Was there a question at the end of that, Troy?
Nope. You got it. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So those are the surveys. Now I want to talk to you about the competitive sets. Were all of you involved in the creation of these two?
Maybe none of us.
Okay.
No, this is just the initial default that we had. We wanted to probably look into different categories here and then see if we want to adjust it for Aira, but we have not updated this.
Okay. Well, I'll just open this up so you all can see what are all of the criteria that's been included, kind of frame what is the competitive set here to do. So this is coming into play with the crowdsourced data. So you have your surveys, and then you have a crowdsourced database of pay scale information. So the competitive sets will really allow you to filter or narrow in on what type of profiles are we hoping to capture when it comes to that crowdsourced data set. So in this case, when we're looking at this one, it's looking for organization type of companies, for-profit companies. Likely that's relevant to you in terms of your competitive talent pool and where and who you're competing with for talent. So that makes sense. Then the next piece is industry, and it looks like you all are looking in that industrial technologies, research and development industry for data. So when it comes to the profiles that the tool is going to be searching for, that's what this is going to, it's essentially going to function like a filter for your data.
Can we change it right now? So let's put in our total revenue, right?
Well, I might pause you here because this isn't about your revenue. It's really about your competitive talent pool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to who are you competing with for talent, are you typically competing with organizations that are your exact same size and have your exact same revenue?
We're startups, so maybe this is where you advise back. I mean, a lot of people were hiring away from big companies, but the people we're hiring away from the big companies are probably looking at other startups in the transition, but they're also probably thinking about staying at their company, which is a large company. So how would you, given that profile, what would you recommend how would we think about it?
I mean, the reason people come to a startup is for, a bigger breadth of experience. Mm-hmm. It might be the equity. It's definitely never the pay. It's not the pay or the benefits. It's the opportunity, the growth, the scope of the job, and maybe the equity.
Mm-hmm.
So to you, are you defining startup by size? To say typical startup size is really where we're trying to target when it comes to market data, or is there a general revenue benchmark that you think qualifies as startup?
You can include revenue, but there's a ton of companies that will have our very low revenue amount that are mom and pop shops that are just kind of doing their daily business, and that's not our market space. So do you have a venture capital stage? Do you have a high growth stage? Something appropriate to startups?
Unfortunately, no. These are the factors that these are the factors that are available within the tool when it comes to a competitive set. What I might encourage you all to think about is, what kind of market information is important for us for our jobs? Is it revenue? Is it size? Is it industry? In this case today, it looks like industry. It was what was been filled in. I'm going to cancel out of this just to say you can have as many of these as you want, and it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy.
So then what we'd probably do a profile, a competitive set based on other companies like us, and then we'll probably do a competitive set on large companies that
Yeah.
We're competing. For example, we've got Qualcomm in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
we've got Intuit in the neighborhood. So we know that there's we can look at we can create a very small set of large dominant companies in the space that have our potential employees. And those salaries are going to be much higher than ours, but we also know that we don't have to pay those because we're offering something that those companies don't offer. But then there's there's going to be 100 little companies in our space, and I think we're just going to have to put in the revenue size, and then we're just going to have to know who they are. And I've done these exercises before, and all what you put in is what you get out. So if you want really good metrics on the outside, you need to do a lot of research ahead of time and pick the 50 companies local to San Diego who are truly our competitors of the same size and space. So I don't think you're going to have any prepackaged sets that will show that without us going through one by one and saying yes, yes, no, no.
Right, definitely. It needs to align to your strategy. I totally agree. I do want to be conscious of time. So it sounds like you all are going to come back in here and really kind of fine tune this, but any questions about what this is intended to do before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and move on to the jobs. So I filtered this to the jobs that are not priced because I wanted to use one of these as an example of a title we could match together. And so just for the purposes of today, would a title like product consultant be a good one for us to match together?
Let's do head of artificial intelligence.
Okay. So I want to reset these filters just to show you how I got here. You can use the sidebar for filtering to potentially only those not priced, or using those as well as the search function, so easy enough. All right, head of artificial intelligence. So there's going to be 2 entry points when it comes to pricing a job. I want to start us up at the top. Be on the lookout for those green pencils. And so it sounds like you all are looking for city metro data. Is this job in San Diego?
Yes.
So we'll just update our job location to San Diego. You have options. Excuse me?
I noticed all the other ones are La Jolla, and La Jolla is obviously part of San Diego, so I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, we can update that if you'd like, if you want it to.
No, I think San Diego's better than La Jolla, so maybe it was the inverse, which is everyone located in La Jolla should really be San Diego.
Okay. So you have the option between city metro data and national data when it comes to this work location option.
Okay.
And so using this magnifying glass, we'll go ahead and search within the database of pay scale profiles. So this is the crowdsourced data. And so what we're seeing down below are benchmarks. And I remember you saying this is your first time with multiple data sources, but is it your first time benchmarking your job?
Here at Aira, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to walk through the best practices with you in terms of how to define a job in the market. Of course, it'd be most helpful if we had a job description, but are you all pretty comfortable with the core tasks of what your job is doing?
Yep.
Okay.
I am. Yep.
Well,
perfect.
Oh.
This job.
Yes, head of AI, which is, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we want to find is the benchmark that is the most similar to your job. And the most similar would mean our criteria would be at least the majority of these bullet points aligning to a similar task of your job.
Right.
So not without knowing anything about your AI head of AI, give me a sense for what are their core tasks. Maybe what would be a common benchmark.
Keep going down. It's more development, software development, and it's not infrastructure.
Would we not just search for probably what is the common?
Yeah, let's start there. What would you call this without, maybe removing your title?
Probably just artificial intelligence.
Yeah, or I'd go director or principal.
Sorry about that. Let me cancel out of here. Sorry, say that one more time. What title were you looking for?
Just go director artificial intelligence.
No.
We can see what kind of artificial intelligence title.
What if you search only on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep.
newer field, they may not have different, you know.
Okay, try just AI. The initials, letter A, letter I.
I'm surprised.
And if that doesn't do it, let's expand to the national data.
Well, the national data is not going to make a difference in terms of the titles that we're choosing from, unfortunately. It's more about, you know, what is a similar or like broader market title for this job. So I was thinking, of course, I don't have a job description for your title, but like even like product or software architect or chief technology officer, something like that might be a good benchmark to start with.
The problem you have is AI is a hot field. I mean, I'm sure you know.
How about cognitive science?
Yeah, but it's, I mean, like I just did a search on Indeed, and there's like 1,000 artificial intelligence jobs.
Right.
And I understand that, but what might be true is we can add in that as a skill set. If we don't have an exact title, which you see that we don't,
I see what you're saying.
we could add that in as a skill set as a way to kind of leverage both. What is this job really core doing?
Yeah, sorry. Are these titles ones that if I, for example, were add Intuit, I would see the job family of the job title? Because I would say at Intuit, we didn't have like a track called artificial intelligence. We had, like you said, that would probably be a software engineering or data science family.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where sources are coming from?
When you say sources, are you referring to these titles?
Yeah.
These titles are being generated by our salary survey. So that's where these benchmarks are being populated from.
Try data scientist.
And I know my system is just running a little bit slow.
Sorry.
I know we have data science titles. Bear with me for just a moment. Let me refresh my page. All right. All right, so here is a data scientist title. I'm going to zoom in here so you all can get a sense for that job and what are the core tasks of that position. Again, we'd be looking for the majority, so 3 out of 4 of these would be similar or like what your job is doing.
Mm-hmm. This is closer, so maybe for the sake of like time, let's assume it's this first one.
Okay.
Because I get the exercise now, like find
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So let's select that and we'll move on to the next page, but we'll further define this match.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I want to talk to you about is years of experience. Pay scale crowdsourced data is really about measuring your proficiencies. So first question for you is, well, we know you're calling it head of or artificial intelligence. So, where in the career path would you say that job is?
I think it's 15 to 30 years.
15 to 30. Okay. So would you say 30 is that proficiency that you're saying, like really at that point in your career, you should be really hitting the ground running with little to no training?
I'd say 20, 25 is that, 30 is upper end, right? So.
Okay. That makes sense to me. So that's,
Yeah.
if you're saying, 25 is that midpoint, then that's exactly how we would input that. Education requirement here. What was your preferred level of education?
Put doctorate.
Okay. All right. All right. So now in the skills, I want to look for artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Aha. And then we see some other popular answers here, but
just for fun, just click on machine learning, Python, and just that's good enough. And that's for now, just so we know. We'll keep going.
You can have up to 7. 7 is the maximum.
Okay, good. All right, that's good to know. Mm-hmm.
Any certification requirements?
Nope.
All right, we just leave that. Is this job responsible for managing others?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to have more questions come in. Do you know the total number of direct and indirect reports rolling up to this title?
Would this be the expected outcome over time or currently?
Current. And this is, I should say, one of those optional questions. You can always get really granular if you want to include an exact number. If you're more comfortable with capturing a broad average, you don't have to answer every question. You can capture a broad average.
Sure. 2.
2. All right. And then it sounds like this job is it on that senior executive level, senior management level?
Actually, it's supervisory professional level. So it's a small team. It's always a small team. It's for now. Yep.
Okay.
And
then of these tasks, what are they influencing? What of these tasks are they a part of the decision?
So just check a couple boxes because we're going to redo this anyway. So hire, promote, mentor, and advise. Yep.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So down here at the bottom, we're going to go ahead and update our job. And that was pricing to that pay scale crowdsourced data. We see the base pay from the 25th to 75th percentile here. Right up to our left or right, we have total cash that we can toggle over to as well, all on the same page.
Got it.
So that was just that very first data point we can add to a job. Down here below, you can interact with this graph, tracking the trends nationally over your city metro. You can also use these tabs if maybe you're more focused on the last 6 months, the last 3 months. So sometimes it's helpful. But I want to come down to the second portion to talk about adding in an additional survey match. So always look for those green pencils. And so the first thing is when we just ran that report, I want to talk about the competitive sets now and how those are going to work. So when you first run a report, it runs it under none, which is just an all industries average. Still city metro specific because we said, hey, we want to look in San Diego for data, but it's an all industries average. Down below here is where we can select, okay, but this is a job that I know is important in a specific competitive set. So you can select that and it's going to rerun that report now because now it's looking for different profiles. So you're going to see those numbers immediately change if you decide to apply a competitive set step.
Got it.
So let's do another search, and I think we said data scientist was our benchmark. So I'm going to do the same benchmark search here to see if there's any potential survey matches that we could apply to this job to add an additional data set. But while that's searching, any questions about the crowdsourced data and what we just walked through?
I'm thinking, but not at the moment.
We can find our way around.
And I'm going to be sending you resources as a follow-up, so we are going to have a step-by-step guide to what we just did.
Right.
But here now we see these are, we saw the surveys at the very beginning, they're here now, and we want to do that same practice. We want to determine, is this benchmark a good match and a good additional data point for my job, looking at the job description, making sure it's still a relevant description for your position. So it looks like there's levels out there for data scientists. I know you said yours is kind of on that 25 years, seems like more senior. So maybe this advanced P4 might be a good match. I'll let you tell me.
Yep, let's say it is. Yeah.
Okay. So then it's just as easy as using that green check mark to make a match.
I see. So it's all opted out, and you add in the ones that also look.
Are a good fit.
Yep, love it.
Yep. And so, and you can have multiple matches, right? You can have more than one here. If you wanted to include additional ones, just use that green check mark. And now now you've blended the data into you have 2 data points for one job. There's a few more things you can do from here, and I want to give you some scenarios, see if they're relevant to you. All right, so of course, there it is. Green pencil again to talk about the factors of adjust, geo, and weight. So adjust is going to have an immediate impact on your survey. It's going to have an immediate impact on the range. So I want you to think about the factor of adjust in terms of discounts or premiums. So common use case for this would be for titles where maybe you have levels. So if this was data scientist 1, 2, and 3, adjust would allow you to potentially use the same benchmark, but just apply a percentage difference to maybe a level 2. So you can use, leave 1 as it is, but then level 2, if you know the typical differential between a 1 and a 2 is 8%, then you could just put in 0.08 here.
Mm-hmm.
So, keyboard issues. There we go.
Okay.
And that would make an immediate impact on your salary range. So it's going to immediately boost that survey by 8%. You can also do the inverse. If you find a title that you're benchmarking to, maybe your job is a manager and you can only find a director level title, again, you can apply a discount to that by a percentage to account for that level. So those are the common use cases when it comes to that factor of adjust. Does that seem relevant to you in any of your jobs?
It does. The geo was more interesting, probably, because we're often, like for this job in particular, we probably wouldn't even find someone in San Diego. We'd probably be pulling out of another geography, like the Bay Area.
Okay.
Like a common use case. So let's say I want to add like another person in this position. I know I've got my eyes on a couple of people up in the Bay Area. I know they make way more. I want to know what they're making today.
So the geo would require you to do a little bit more research on your end. Companies like Mercer and Aira sell market data, geo-differential data that would give you the codes for those hot jobs, for those hot metro areas like San Francisco or New York. So you would need to go buy that information and in order to use this field to know exactly what code zones do you need, if that's what you're trying to accomplish. It doesn't pre-populate that information for you. So if you're looking to use the code for geo, that is something that, again, publishers like ERI or Mercer have reports on. But that is what it would do. It would apply that cost differential based off of those geolocations.
We can, in the same place that you put a percentage pay, you can adjust.
Yeah.
You can say from Bay Area to San Diego, we can offer 70%.
But
right.
Okay, I'm still a little confused only because you showed me all the data cuts, and we started with San Diego. Would I not, or could I not just redo that for San Francisco and then look, right? Because
yeah, but she's talking about the translation, cost of living, and the salary differentials between the two.
I see. So I'm looking at it as a market thing.
You're searching for the person.
Yeah.
When you're trying to adjust the pay, if you want it to be automatic and flow through.
I understand. All right, never mind. Okay, thanks.
Well, and there's 2 ways you can go about that. One way, like you were saying, is use the geocode, or like we saw before, some cuts are city metro specific. So using this drop down here that says all data, you can see if that job title does exist, and then here you would be able to apply it and use the city metro cut instead of a national cut. So that's how you can get to that information without even having to apply any type of adjustment or code.
Okay.
And then the last factor is weight. Of course, right now, 1-to-1 is 50-50 when it comes to the aggregate of these two. You can adjust this if you wanted to give one salary a percentage or a boost over another when it comes to the sum. You can use whole numbers. You can use decimals that add up to 1. You can use numbers that add up to 100 when it comes to adjusting the weight for your aggregate.
Got it.
So easy, depending on your preference. So that is job pricing.
Okay.
And so I want to come back out now and show you how you can download this information out. But what questions do you still have about what we've just seen today?
If we wanted to ask somebody on our team who's not either one of us to go through and survey the local market for competitive companies and put them into some likely buckets, do you have kind of a step-by-step that would give somebody the structure who maybe isn't local to our market to go through and at least come up with kind of a curated list of the different buckets that we can then kind of quickly review and say yes, yes, no, no to create those data sets?
We don't have a, I mean, we have a strategic questionnaire that I can send you. It's not, I don't think it's going to do, it doesn't sound like it's going to be like as, it's not about buckets, but it's really more about asking questions around your strategy and in terms of how you're wanting to meet the market. And maybe that could be a helpful tool for you all to define your competitive set. I'm happy to send that along to you, but that's really the only resource that we have.
Okay, it's
So
probably a
happy
good
to share
start.
that.
That's a good start. Thanks.
You're welcome. So up here at the top, of course, you can move things through those bubbles that we saw at the top of the hour. So if you're like, you know what, this is good. I know I just crossed all my T's, dotted my I's for this. You can move it out into the reviewed by using that bubble there. If you're coming in and maybe someone else matched this and you wanted to do a quick audit, you can click on that pricing audit to see exactly how was that job matched, what was included on it. Make sure everything is what you want it to be. You can download this pricing audit out if you'd like into an Excel file. Sometimes that's handy if you all wanted to keep a hard copy of it on your desktop. So I want to show you how to download this page. Well, before I do that, actually, we see a bubble on here, and that just represents the employee, of course, that you have within this job and where they're falling in the market.
Okay.
So up at the top, you can download this page out. It downloads out into a pretty good looking PDF. So if you needed to share this report with other folks, really easy to download that out into a PDF. And I'll show you what that looks like briefly. But overall, does job pricing seem pretty easy?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you'll get kind of that core information, and then coming down, you'll just be able to see there's multiple cuts involved. And then the job description for that additional survey match down at the bottom. All right, so that, for those other jobs, that's the practice going in and editing. You've got your pay scale crowdsource data up here at the top and your survey matches down here at the bottom. So we got about 18 minutes left, and I want to show you now how to pull these reports out into Excel, but I want to make sure you feel comfortable with the job pricing piece before we move on.
Yeah, Kadar, how are you doing?
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I'm just looking at the various things that we are doing. Unfortunately, I'm also on the road, but I'm gonna review it one more time, the recording.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move over to the report library. And I want to build a report with you that is going to be helpful in reviewing these benchmarks now that you have, really the majority of your jobs matched. What I want to point you to is the globe of standard reports. These are our library. This is kind of where you can come into all of the pre-built popular reports. So click on the globe when you're getting started. You're going to notice the same favorites feature here, just another way to tell the tool, hey, these are the ones I plan on using a lot. They'll show up on as your favorites. So what's nice about the report library is you can hover over any of these reports, get a cut and dry explanation of what the outcome will be. You'll also have the column of report type to know, is this going to be on the incumbent level or is this going to be a job-based report? This is really going to give you an idea of what elements are going to show up on that report when it comes to actually exporting it out. So the one I wanted to build with you is the market pricing detailed report. This gives you a good window into the benchmarks and how your jobs were matched. So it's a really helpful one just to make sure everything is defined the way that you want. So all of these pull in, of course, the job matching. So we're seeing the job code, where was it priced, what was the title it was matched to. For jobs that have multiple survey cuts, or multiple matches, you could see what two were included. So that's really helpful, as well as that title again. Coming all the way over, here's the market pricing results. So you get to see market base at the 50th and 75th, as well as total cash at the 50th and 75th. So I know this is the first time that you all have done some benchmarking. So typically what a lot of clients like to do is have some point of comparison. So when it comes to reviewing these and saying how close are these, a lot of people like to compare their employees' pay to the market. So my first question is, when it comes to your employees' pay, where do you think you're falling? Do you typically like to meet the market at the 50th percentile, or do you typically like to lead the market? Where would you guess your employees' pay would fall?
In terms of a pure guess, I think we're probably down in the, I'd guess we're between 25 and 50%.
And would you say right now your main focus is base pay, or is total cash something that you're looking at as well?
No, we're so early that, you know, the value and the value proposition of coming here is really not the cash. As we continue to raise money and get some traction and become more mature, we need to close that gap. And I would guess that, you know, over the next 2 to 3 years, we're probably going to target the, you know, 50th to 75th percentile. But given that my guess is that we're starting at 25th, we're going to be on a, you know, a slow progression to get there. That's not something we can do nor want to do, you know, overnight or in this first session.
Right, of course, absolutely. So what then I'm going to do is go over to data elements. This is where we can personalize this report. So I'm going to remove total cash just by clicking on the 3 little dots in front of that element, since we don't need that on the report right now. But over here in these folders is where you can add those additional elements in. So just finding that base salary here, I'm going to add in that 25th percentile. You'll see it immediately loaded, and then you can just drag and drop in terms of how do I want this to be displayed. Of course, 25th to 75th percentile makes sense. And then next thing I want to do is add in your employee salaries. So what's nice and what I always remind people of is you want to look at the hierarchy of the folders to know exactly what this is rolling up to. So we can find their base salary amount, add that in. And then I'm also going to add in a few measurements so you could know how close or how far potentially are your employees to these percentiles. So I'm going to add in salary as a percentage of the 25th, 75th, or 25th, 50th, and 75th, just to get you started and move those elements where they make sense. So that's really how easy it is. You can open them all up. You can expand all. You can search in here. So if you wanted to see what kind of like total cash things just in general are available, you can use the keyword search and the magnifying glass if you prefer to do that over opening up the folders. So once you have everything the way that you want, all you need to do now is come back to your report results tab, and now it's going to be immediately updated to include those additional elements. So I'm just going to scroll all the way over so you can see exactly what the tool's showing us. So here's your employee's base salary, and then you get a measurement of how close are they to those percentiles in a percentage. So of course, anyone that would have 100% is getting paid just almost exactly at that percentile.
Okay.
So a lot of people like to use this again to know how are my benchmarks lining up. If I expect a lot of my employees pay to come in at that 50th percentile, that's why that salary as a percent sometimes could be a really good indicator of, is this a good match or not? And then again, you get to come over and see, what title was it matched to? Here we see this corporate executive in the all data cut. So, maybe for you, you would want to go back to see, is there a San Francisco cut available for this job? Since it sounds like that might be relevant for some of your positions.
Right.
So you can use all of that to review, again, the benchmarks, make sure they're matched the way that you want, because unless the data for the benchmarks are right, the whole exercise of the analysis is not going to be impactful unless the jobs are defined accurately. So that's why this report is important. I want to come back to parameters to show you how to save this now, because once you do it once, you don't have to come in here and do it again. It's your personal report now. So I want to click Save As, and then I'm going to save this into your account. So what would be a good or helpful display name to call this so everyone knows exactly what this is?
This is the test bed. Or is this going to be, will we continue to edit this report and refine it?
Really, this is just a template to get you started. I'm going to save it into your account so you all can come back in, make changes to it, or reference it again. It doesn't have to, we can call it market pricing results training. It doesn't have to be anything too complicated.
Yep, that's fine. That's good. And we can save multiples?
Correct. And I'm going to show you exactly where and how you can do that. It's going to confirm, yes, we've saved it. It's a new report. And then you'll notice that it starts off saying this is published to my personal report, which just means no one else could see it. It's saved under my login. Maybe it's sensitive information that no one else on the team see. So it starts off as a personal report. I'm going to show you, coming back to the report library, where you could see those different icons between personal and site. And I want to save this as a site-wide report so you all can come in and grab it. So coming in here, I'm going to click on that link again. And then in parameters, we can use the drop-down to now push it into the site-wide report. And now you all can go in there and grab it. So those are your options. You've got the site or the personal. I'm an internal user, so that's why you're seeing internal. You two just, or you all really just have that site and personal to choose from. And then you can absolutely, so if you were to go back in and make more changes to this, you can create as many copies of this as you want. There's no limit, of course, to the number of reports you could build in here, but use that publish to area to know where it's going to be saved. All right, so now that we've walked through that example and we've gotten a sense for the report, of course you can download this out into Excel. So up at the top, you can download this out into Excel or CSV if maybe you put some formulas in there. You can download it out into a PDF. Right now it's being sorted and broken by a few different factors. You can absolutely change that. You know, if you're a whiz at Excel, you're going to be a whiz in here also. So you can remove those breaking averages if they're not applicable to you, if you don't want to see it broken that way. Oh, let me just remove those. There we go. So if you don't want those averages by row, you can remove that and really personalize and tailor these. And then from here, you know, you could still make changes and drag and drop columns from here if you want. If you prefer to do that, you don't even have to go back to data elements. You can drag and move columns from this view as well. So lots of great ways to make changes to these. You'll find operators in the drop downs if you wanted to zoom in on certain groups. So if we wanted to just say accounting, we could just do a quick search. Oh, let me choose the right operator first. Well, before I get into that, but what kind of questions do you have about this part of the tool?
Nothing. I'm good. I'm good.
Yep. No, I think this is definitely useful.
Great. I'm going to send, again, resources about this reporting function because I know it has a lot of possibilities. So I'm going to send a video as well as a how-to guide about reports. So in terms of today, that's really what I was hoping that we could accomplish. We've got about 7 minutes left. I'm happy to give you that time back in your day, or we can cover anything that you feel like you want to cover again.
No, I think just a request to send over that kind of initial scoping strategic view of the company would be really helpful to get us going in the right direction. And I have more Excel skills than I will ever use, so I'll be really comfortable in the reporting. I think we just have a lot of work to do to set up our data sets.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's part of the process. I've done this process in previous companies, but I'm new here at Aira, so it's a brand new process for this company.
Gotcha.
So
well,
I
will absolutely include that strategic questionnaire in my email as well. And just in that follow-up email, I'm going to include your customer success manager. So if there's anything that comes up for you, they'll be on that email chain if you want to ask them any questions.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. All right. So if there aren't any more questions, thank you all for your time today. I really appreciate it. And be on the lookout for that email from me.
Thanks, Michaela. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.